the Sugar and Spikes podcast, a show for everyone trying to navigate business and life without losing their minds. I'm Dez, a coach and consultant who is entirely overeducated, habitually overdressed, and obnoxiously honest.
And I'm Tammy. I'm a psychologist. Was I supposed to say more?
You know what? Enough said. We talk about mindset, mental health, and making it all work in the big, bad business world.
One quick note. We may be mental health professionals, but we're not your mental health professionals.
So, enjoy the show. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy 2019.
I know.
Except we're recording this and it's not actually 2019.
That's okay.
Not quite yet. But the thing is so I was working on something for work today and we're working on an event and it's in 2019. So for the past 6 months or so, I've been living in the idea that it is 2019 because it's event name 2019 and all this stuff. And so I was working on a piece of content and it was 2019 year in review. Wait. Hold on
a minute.
And I was like, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to do a year in review or do I want to do predictions? Predictions. One thing's changing. Just one piece of this. But that is to say, it's the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. This time last year was really when the podcast kind of started to find its footing.
That's true. Seems like so long ago, doesn't it?
Oh my God, a lifetime ago.
I know. Forever. Well, so much has happened.
I was going to say, how has your year been?
Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Good in some ways, but really challenging. And I definitely had some highs and lows.
I was watching the last Harry Potter movie. And, the scene at the end where the three of them just walk out, just haggard and so beat up, but victorious. I'm like, that's been my year.
Yeah.
Me walking into 2019, there's so many people that have the whole fabulous as fuck gifts going on and everything. I'm rolling into 2019 whoa, and I'm just I'm stumbling. I may be literally limping into 2019, but I'm there.
Yeah. I finally I feel like that's been kind of me starting from about the halfway point of this year and kind of sorry. Me from the halfway point of this year, it's kind of okay. And then kind of really feeling like I'm starting to get my footing. And so hopefully that'll continue into next year.
Yeah. But one thing that I know I do, especially once I feel like I kind of have life under control, and we talked about this back in October actually, when we were we've hit our new normal and now we understand, is we set growth points or, given the time frame, some people may call them New Year's resolutions.
New Year's resolution.
It's a new concept. I don't know if it's gonna catch on.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sold on the idea of New Year's resolutions because I'll tell you why. Not that I don't think goal setting is important. It is important. But people don't set realistic goals. They just set themselves up for failure. And there's nothing wrong with dreaming big, but long-term goals are long-term for a reason. You aren't going to accomplish them in a month.
Yeah.
So you have to have those shorter-term pieces. And I feel like if you set the New Year's resolution with the shorter-term pieces, then you would start to see more success.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of the tone has shifted in general from 5 years ago it was this whole new year, new me, and my life's changing. I think people got sick of feeling beat up partway through February around it. So
partway through February, I don't know. I don't think people made it
to February now.
No.
I was being generous.
Maybe.
But I mean, we talked about it last year. I'm a fan of the New Year's resolution mainly because I like reflecting on things and setting goals, but I think even I think that it can be dangerous, like, to your point in terms of taking this excitement and this level of, like, newness and wanting to make all these drastic changes and setting your sights to, like, this big, bad, like, beautiful thing that's coming, and then feeling overwhelmed because sometimes, like, the excitement of possibility can be overwhelming, and then you just stop there, right? Like, I
Mhm.
have all these hopes and everything. What do I do first? I don't know, I can't choose. Okay, I'm gonna sit here with this excitement, and then next thing you know, it's March and nothing's done.
Right.
So, I think I do like the idea of, like, smaller goals, and I think, like, setting smaller defined pieces, and then come February or March or something, if you've already hit it, then it's another time to reflect and come up with other things because you can only plan for what you know for where you are right now.
Yeah.
And I think about the goals that I set this time last year, and so many of those, like, because I'm me, like, I did make active choices to be like, "That's not where I am right
Mhm.
now." But if I wasn't keeping, like, active tabs on everything, I'd be sitting here like, "I didn't hit these things that I really wanted to do," and, like, feeling not so great.
Yeah.
I know I'm really rambling right now,
No, you're
but
not rambling. I have lots of thoughts going through my head,
Mhm.
and I've been shaking my head as you've been talking. I'm like, that makes for amazing podcasting. Like just head
Yeah.
shakes. Um, but like so many things that you're talking about, I think other people experience,
Mhm.
right? And I also don't want people to hear like, "Oh, you're just saying like don't dream big." No, we're not saying that.
Mhm.
Definitely not saying that. Like I think when we dream big though, dream big by all means,
Mhm.
but what is the first identifiable
Yeah.
step that's going to get you there?
Mhm.
Because if you think of it like a road,
Mhm.
if you're 3,000 miles away,
Mhm.
then you've got to break it down.
Yeah.
Like
You're gonna
where are
have
you
to
going to
stop for
be?
gas.
Yeah, where are we going to stop? Where are we going to stop overnight? Like I think about like us coming out here and like
Mhm.
we had to be very thoughtful and
Mhm.
say, "Okay, we're going to stop here and here and here," and that's where we stopped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how we were going to plan that.
Mhm.
And then we split into 2 parties, and one party went one way and one party, they had a different route and they
Mhm.
went a different way, and, like, it all worked out
Mhm.
fine. So I think, like, everybody can kind of do their own thing and
Yeah.
now see, I'm rambling, but whatever. But
No,
everybody can dream big and have their
mhm.
own ways of getting there, but you still have to be, like, planful.
Mhm. And, like, as cliche as it is, one thing that I think a lot of folks maybe, like, don't spend a lot of time, like, processing or thinking about is this idea, and I forget who said it. I think it was Jeff Bezos or so someone like that, like some business person that has written books now or whatever.
Okay.
Um, but the idea that, like, so many people overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 5 years.
Oh, that makes total sense, actually. Yeah.
Like, when we think of New Year's resolutions, and I think of the list that I did last year, it was so big and broad, and there were so many things, and, yeah, I hit a lot of those things, but then, honestly, 3 or 4 of those have shifted into a five-year plan,
Mhm.
and I think it's this idea of, yeah, maybe if everything operated in a silo, you you could hit those big dreams super fast, and that's cool, but you're also working with everything else going on in your life.
Well, and there's so many. I mean, we've talked about this probably a million times because
Mhm.
it's kind of like my whole foundation for how I look at life. And I know
Mhm.
you're very similar is that you may have the biggest, most ambitious plans,
Mhm.
but you don't control everything that goes into achieving that.
Mhm.
So even if you could achieve every part of it that you do control,
Mhm.
there's just too many
Yeah.
variables, right?
Mhm.
So, like, best laid plans,
Yeah.
right? So, anyway, that was what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just a little bit today.
No, I think it's this idea of really, really acknowledging that, it's good to step forward and it's good to look forward, and growth shouldn't stop just because it doesn't look what you expect it to look, and let that
Mhm.
be okay.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the thing, like, oh, this is one topic that I wanted to talk about. And we were talking earlier, and I was like, I know there's always like a third that I forget, but like, what I was gonna say is this is why we're never gonna be super famous, is because we're like, it depends, and it doesn't have to be like one way. And you
Yeah,
can
people
work with
don't like
things.
that,
Like,
right?
people don't like this gray area. People like those loud voices that are like, here's how you do it and here's how it happens and come hell or high water, blah 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 blah, right?
Well, it just tamps down that anxiety quite a bit, right?
Mhm. And we're like, it can't. Like, you'll get to where you want to go. It's just going to look different, and it
Mhm.
may not go exactly as planned.
Mhm.
Like, I think about the travel list that I had, because a part of like my New Year's planning last year was deciding the places I wanted to go. And like, one of the biggest shockers is I actually hit all but two of them.
Nice.
Um, but it looked completely different than what I thought. Like, the things that took me to Nashville were not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So still happened, still checked it off the list in a completely different way.
Than you had imagined before.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, living in those messy spaces is
Mhm.
hard. It's hard.
And it's not sexy or fun. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of work, and which is why I think, I don't know, where I saw this episode specifically going was this idea
Nowhere
of
where it ends up ever.
having just like a handful of goals. Like, the list that I made last year was obnoxiously long.
Okay.
Um I think I did like 28 goals for 28 or
Oh my
something like that,
goodness.
right?
28?
I when I was so my 20th year on this planet was a real like mind fuck. I was freaking out about turning 30,
When you were
and
20?
I was like, I only have 2 more
Oh,
years.
honey.
I know, yeah, no. So 28 was a weird year, but also if you remember, 28 was like the one age where whenever anybody would ask me, I'd be like, 26, 27. Like, I also just continuously forgot how old I was all year. But all this is to say, I had a lot of like goals, and they were like big lofty things, right? I haven't gone back. I haven't looked at what I did accomplish versus what I didn't. I can think of like 5 that I definitely didn't. But now this year, as I'm going into planning and everything, I really have, like, I'm keeping it at 5 max,
Mhm.
and really honing in on stuff and looking at not just the actions or like lo- objective like things that I can cross off, but really, what do I want more of? What am I looking to enhance? Things like that. Like,
Okay.
I haven't done the list yet, but I've been thinking about it. And it's just, instead of 28, I'm I'm going for 5 now. Not that I feel like I need to do less, but because I think that I can accomplish more with less. Like, I know that's really cheesy, but I think that, like, one example is with like the podcast and, Sugar and Spikes being what it is, like this grand vision last year for what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that involves so many things.
Mhm.
And those were all pieces of like, those were all goals. Like, I want to be represented here and I want to do this and like X, Y, and Z. And now this year, like, the goal that I have for the podcast is I want the podcast to grow and grow well.
Mhm.
Like, is it in theory a brand? Yes. But I want to be known for the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, so it's shifted.
It has
And
shifted, yeah, for sure.
I feel like I can have more success by having that like laser focus
Mhm.
versus the I want to accomplish all these things with a brand. You know?
Well, it's like you said, people overestimate what they can accomplish in a
Mhm.
year and underestimate what they can accomplish in 5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think maybe you you ran into that a little bit last year
Mhm.
with all the grand plans like, "Hmm, maybe not what we can accomplish in a year."
Mhm.
So, you have to temper that, like, ambition with realism.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And kind of do that dance or that balance. I know
Yeah.
that word's so cliche, but, like, finding where that fits for you.
Mhm.
Because definitely you don't wanna just be like, "Well, I'm gonna be really, like, real and not
Mhm.
be ambitious at all," because
Yeah.
you won't grow.
Mhm.
You'll just become stagnant, or be so ambitious with no realism that you feel like failure all
Mhm.
the time. So, I mean, yeah. And for me, having been in grad school for as long as I was, this is really, like, the first year in 5 years
Mhm.
that I feel like it hasn't been mapped out for me,
Mhm.
right? So, like, last year, it was like, finish this, do this, graduate. I have to
Mhm.
get this many hours. I have to, right? Like, so it was
Mhm.
all of that. But this year,
Captain of your own destiny.
that's right. Driving my own car. So, what do I want to learn? What do I want to accomplish? How do I
Mhm.
want to grow? At least in terms of like as a psychologist
Mhm.
um
Well, as a
and
person.
as a person, right? So like I also realize that I've spent a long time being very focused on one thing, and
Mhm.
so it's kind of time to expand back into more areas of my life.
Mhm.
So for me, kind of taking a reflective stance of like, yes, okay, I have work goals that I want to accomplish, but there's more. There's
Mhm.
more. So how do I stop neglecting
Yeah.
those areas?
Yeah. That was one of the biggest shifts I had to make coming out of grad school was like, who am I as a person?
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a bit back there. Like we were texting the other day and it's the first time in probably like almost 3 years where I felt like I could really have that idea of like, who am I like as an individual,
Mhm.
and grow and really like step into that space.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I mean, it's just huge shifts, right?
Mhm.
Huge changes that have happened in both of our lives in the last year, and I think
Mhm.
like you start to realize that maybe you've been blind, or I don't know that I was blind to areas I was neglecting, but just had made that conscious decision. I mean, you have to.
Mhm.
Like for grad school almost like set aside some other
Yeah.
things, right? Like I
When they
don't
tell you that.
I know, and it's so true. And
Mhm.
so now that I'm working and I don't well, I was going to say I don't have to study anymore, but that's not true. Um
You're getting close to not having to
I'm getting
study.
close to not having to study. It's like my last big hurdle.
Mhm.
Um, so then I can be like, hey, let's read a book that
Yeah.
isn't about psychology or
Except except the reason I asked you to start a book club was because I want to keep that part of my brain sharp.
well, no more textbooks
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Done with textbooks, done with pages and pages and pages of things that I have to
Mhm.
memorize, done with writing 20-page papers for
Mhm.
5 classes, like done with all of that.
Yeah.
And that'll be nice.
Mhm.
That'll be nice. And then, picking up some of those things that have fallen
Mhm.
off.
What do you think is one area that you wanna kind of, like, I don't know, grow into? Sounds cheesy, but
I think I want to grow more into like having a life outside of school.
mm.
Kind of
So a life outside of work.
a life
Like,
out. So
even
now
rephrasing
right,
it.
so a life outside of work. Cuz
Mhm.
even as you were talking, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have a lot of goals." They're all work-related goals,
Mm.
right? And so I'm like, that's interesting.
Hobbies.
What is a fucking
I
hobby?
know.
Like, whenever I hear the word hobby, I'm like, I'm gonna sit there and like whittle,
Mhm.
you know? But I think trying to just enjoy the process more.
Mhm.
I think for me, I was raised in this really goal focused way
Mhm.
where everything was just a challenge to accomplish and move on.
Mhm.
That I want to be able to slow down
Mhm.
and kind of enjoy the process a little bit more.
Mhm.
The process of living, the process of doing, not
Yeah.
just checking things off my list all the time because
Mm.
I'm pretty comfortable there, but it's not quite as satisfying,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So
I
that,
like
I mean,
that.
that's for me.
Yeah.
What about you? One.
I So my word, and we're gonna do an episode more focused on this, but my word for the coming year, because that's 2018, my word was fearless and really like stepping into stuff and like owning things and
Mhm.
making really ridiculous decisions. um,
The
but
best kind of
right.
decisions.
But for the coming year, my word is focus.
Okay.
So I wanna keep doing what I'm doing, like, I'm so happy with where I am in life in terms of, like, career, hobbies, friends, and all of that, but I wanna shine it up. Like, I wanna do better, like, I don't wanna add things to it,
Mhm.
I just wanna make sure that what I'm doing is on point.
So improvement in quality, not in quantity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm for the first time in so long, I am at a place where I'm happy with the status of like my life now. How do I enhance that?
Mhm.
Version 2.1.
Love it. Not necessarily about adding or taking away, just
Mhm.
kind of changing the tone of everything.
Mhm.
I like that you
Yeah.
said like adding polish, like making it shiny.
Mhm.
Mhm. It's
Cuz I'm
nice.
like I think it's one thing to be happy with where you are and also how do I do this better? Like how continuously like searching for growth
Yeah.
is it's important to me.
Mhm.
So yeah, just looking for
But
ways.
growth can look different,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
growth, I like that you said that because I think growth can sometimes look like the idea of constantly adding, changing, right?
Mhm.
Diverging, whatever. But what you're talking about is growth without all of that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Growth with equal amounts.
Mhm.
So I do like that.
Yeah, which is where, like, the book club thing came into play, like, I texted Tammy the other day, I was like, "I wanna do a book club." But that whole thing is, like, I was thinking about, well, how do I wanna enhance and how do I want to improve in the coming year, and one thing that I was thinking about that seemed I don't know how many people have this type of thought, but I was like, "I wanna make sure I don't lose my edge in terms of critical thinking."
Yeah. It's so
You
important. It's
know?
so important.
And so I was like, "Well, how do I do that?" Getting together with people I know that are roughly on the same level and, like, giving room for that challenge and a part of that is book club, especially with folks that have gone to grad school and know how to critically think through literature the
Right.
way we do.
Oh, it's gonna be fun.
But, like, so that was one thing, like, it's nothing huge, but
A piece.
it's making sure my mind stays sharp,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah.
So thinking about those maybe areas that get neglected. I think we
Mhm.
spend a lot of time on the podcast like talking about um like business focused topics, which is
Mhm.
so important.
Yeah.
But um kind of thinking of different ways that people want to grow in a more
Mhm.
personal way.
Yeah.
So your word for the year is focus. I think mine is probably enjoyment.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that against you so many
I know you
times.
are. I'm like, I shouldn't tell her. I should not say anything. Uh, you said, but
No, I like that, and yeah, I can get on board with that.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's important.
Yeah. Alright. Well, if you guys have a word of the year, let us know.
Definitely.
One of the things I wanna be better about is social media for the podcast. Um,
I leave that to you.
yeah, so
It doesn't fit in my world.
you don't enjoy it.
I don't. I don't. So I won't do it.
Yeah. But, I mean, you can let us know at the, Sugar and Spikes Pod Instagram, or you could let me know, and I'll let Tammy know, at Des W Ms. MBA all across the socials,
Yes.
and I'm there all the time. Yeah, let us know your word for the year and kind of what you think of goals,
Yep.
because 'cause I'm interested. I don't think there's one way to view it.
Well, and I think that your goals for the year and my goals for the year really speak to that. So I'm
Mhm.
curious how
what
other
other people think.
Mhm.
I
'Cause I
agree.
love diversity
Yep.
of perspective. I
Mhm.
just think it helps me to think in new ways, and
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, happy 2019, everyone, and we will talk to you later.
Happy New Year, friends.
Bye.